Rise and Shine with Robbo and Becci on Vision.
Well, Dr. Monica joins us this morning. Good morning, Dr. Monica.
Good morning, Becci. Good morning, Robbo.
So
Great
good
to
to
have
have
you with
had
us
you
again.
on for Wellness Wednesday. We're loving everything. Now, if you do want to find out more, what's your website again?
It's drmonicadr.com.
Oh, so
Easy.
good. And follow her on social media, Dr. Monica too. I follow her on Instagram. Great little snippets if you do want to find out more. But, you know, we're going to hit you with the hard things today, aren't we, Robbo?
That's right, yes. We're going to talk about unforgiveness, and it's really a vital part of our lives in all different spheres. But I guess asking you, how can unforgiveness affect our relationships with God and with those around us?
Yeah, this is a big topic. So, it could go in any direction, really. But, firstly, just for transparency's sake, I've personally walked through these seasons of hurt and intense hurt and holding on to unforgiveness. So, I come from that space of, I guess, sharing part of my healing journey as well, and how I freed myself from this, space of unforgiveness. But unforgiveness is one of those things that can really rob us of our joy, of our relationship with God, and of people. And I think most of us, we are all humans, so I'm sure we've all been hurt, and we've also inflicted hurt onto someone else. So I think it's safe to say that we've all sort of experienced this. But I think unforgiveness is one of those things that if we're not careful, we can sort of just go through the motions of the day, not even sort of addressing it really, because it's one of those things that we don't see and we sometimes don't even talk about. If you are holding unforgiveness towards someone, you're probably not broadcasting it. You're just keeping it to yourself. And that unforgiveness can then become bitterness. It can become resentment. And that's where the problem is. We all get hurt. We all get angry. So unforgiveness is not, in that one sort of moment where we are, feeling like, someone's wronged us. But it's when we hold on to that feeling and it sort of turns into that longer lasting bitterness, that's where the problem is. And I find, I work with a lot of women in sort of different settings as well in my coaching capacity. And one of the things that as we peel back the layers, like peeling back an onion, it's this deeper seated sort of feeling of anger, and it's almost like we want to take revenge on someone, and we want to retaliate. I think that's where we got to really take a moment and go, all right, hang on, what is this doing to me? It's, I'm sure we've all heard of this saying, it's unforgiveness. It's like us drinking poison and hoping the other person dies.
Yeah, that's right.
But we know this isn't possible. It's more along the lines of, it's like us drinking poison and us experiencing a slow death. Because it is a slow death. It's, it's so subtle. It comes out in our, in our interactions with people. You might be cynical towards someone, or, if someone walks into the room or you're holding unforgiveness towards that person, maybe you try and avoid that person. And, so it's so subtle, but it can come out in our interactions. And I find when we hold on to unforgiveness, one of the things that I have experienced is that we almost feel disconnected with God. There is a block in that relationship, and again, it's not something we sometimes give language to. But I know a lot of women whom I've worked with where they just go through these seasons and they say, "Oh, I just feel so disconnected from God. I feel dry," and there is a block there. Because we are so, we're just so overwhelmed by that feeling of unforgiveness. But, I also want to sort of just draw our attention to Matthew 11:28. It says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." So there is a way out. There is a way out. And unforgiveness does, exhaust us. Whether we like to believe it or not, it is exhausting. It is a burden. It is like that invisible backpack that we carry on us. And if we are not careful, that backpack just gets heavier and heavier and heavier. But, this is the beauty of God's word. He says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. And that's the beauty of it, that we can surrender. We can surrender that unforgiveness to God and breathe it out and leave it there. So that's the other thing with unforgiveness. We might say, I forgive this person, but really, have we really forgiven that person?
Yeah, and that's a really good question, isn't it? Because oftentimes, as you say, it'll be a bit of lip service. Say, yep, it's okay, But then I guess it's in the ensuing encounters or interactions with that person when we really discover whether we have or not. Because our attitudes sort of rise up again. We're like, hang on, maybe I haven't quite forgiven them.
Exactly, and I think it's just it's never a once made decision. I when I walked through a period of intense hurt in a specific relationship, I had to almost daily just go, you know what, I choose to forgive this person.
Yeah.
I choose to forgive this person. And that's the other thing. Forgiveness is a choice. It's not it's not going to just happen for us. We have to actually intentionally speak those words that I choose to forgive, because you don't want it robbing you of, the joys of other relationships. Because when we hold on to unforgiveness, what we're doing is we're putting up our walls, because it's a protective mechanism for us. And that's a natural thing. You find a lot of women or a lot of people walking around with this deep-seated wound, which is just robbing them of potential friendships or potential relationships with or potential community with others. So I think it's one of those things. It's like that weed in the garden. If you don't pull it out, it's just going to grow through. And sometimes, you don't even see it as weeds anymore, because it just sort of, just becomes part of your garden.
That's right. Yeah, it's the only thing there sometimes. Yeah, that's so true. I think the wonderful thing that we have as Christians is that we've got God's help in this, aren't we? If we're struggling, and as you said, there's some things that people have faced in their lives that really are massive into, you're not just going to feel like forgiving in those situations, but we can come to God and say, God, please help me in this. And I guess even recognizing that God's forgiven us. And so, out of that relationship with him, that we can then learn to forgive other people as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's more, it's when we forgive others, we are really freeing ourselves. And I know it sounds so cliche, it sounds so easy, but as I said, it's a choice firstly, but it's also an everyday thing, especially when you're going through those really challenging, situations or relationships or trauma. It's not an easy fix, but it's a choice that we have to make for ourselves, so that we can then free ourselves to enjoy the other blessings that God, puts before us.
Yeah. So true. That's great. Well, we could probably talk about forgiveness and all these matters for ages, but appreciate what you've shared with us today. And just want to encourage people, if you want to find out more or connect with Dr. Monica, you can via the website, drmonicadr.com. Or you can search for her on social media at Dr. Monica. But really appreciate your time again today, and look forward to chatting again on Wellness Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.